So the first question I want to ask you is if you could talk a little bit about the power of video games and that narrative form versus Hollywood films like Saving Private Ryan, or more recently Hacksaw Ridge, to really get to know what happened to these soldiers on the ground during World War II.
Well, that's a very good question. Well, of course, we've watched those movies and we studied those and beyond. We've watched an awful lot of documentaries and read and everything. And so, for us, it was trying to find out the amount of chaos that would be on the ground, because they didn't have the radios, they didn't have that stuff like we talked about in the last games, and so seeing Private Ryan and for us is more of a validation as we start to put together stuff and we start to see our game together and we go, yeah, this is coming together like a Private Ryan, or it's coming together like a movie. But for us, we feel that with the story that we tell and the way that we actually can immerse people, and we get in there at kids 17, 18 years old now playing the game, they're going to start to learn it and understand World War II a little bit more than they could have. And I don't even know if some of them get into these movies right at their age, but with the video game, we hope that they not only have excitement and fun, but when they're done, they've walked away and they've, got a message.
How did, I know you guys have a historian, but how did real stories and what you heard from actual soldiers that are still alive, or from stories that those soldiers told, influence the story people are going to be walked through and lived through in this campaign?
Yeah, we've spent the last 3 years deeply researching with Marty Morgan, our military historian, and frankly, going to these locations, walking literally in the footsteps of the soldiers that landed on Normandy and fought all the way to Germany. And those stories are really powerful. Stories of sacrifice, of heroism, story of moral choices and extreme conditions. So when you are there, when you get to learn and feel and understand just the scope and scale of this conflict, it demands that you treat it with a level of respect that I think is different than maybe games we've made in the past. Like, the material is so powerful, the conflict so real, and so many people lost their lives that there's an honor that comes with telling the story in a very real and respectful way.
Yeah, we listen to a lot of stories, tons and tons of stuff, and little anecdotes from anecdotes to just what people were. My grandfather always kept a picture of my mother in his pocket, that sort of thing. So we've tried to get as much detail as we can, and some of them come back from just the team where, hey, my grandfather was a bomber, and they would tell a story or something like that. But the other thing is that individuals made a big difference in this war. We heard about the story of Private Armstrong, who just by using a bazooka stopped the advancement of a 10-mile armored division, right? So it's not unheard of for one person to be making a difference, or a squad in World War II, and so that's sort of the route that we followed.
After having focused on the future of warfare in your last game, from a gameplay perspective, what are the challenges players will have now going back in history with the weapons available then, as well as other changes you guys have made to the gameplay experience?
Going back to World War II actually gives us a tremendous opportunity. It's very grounded in what happened. These are real locations with iconic equipment and weapons that people know and understand. So for us, in our previous games, we were creating the conflict and having to get players to understand the protagonist and antagonist and really believe in this gear and equipment. That was a fun challenge. This opportunity to bring it back to what really happened and tell the story that people know actually makes the experience so real to players. So for me, and I think for the team, going back to World War II really grounds the conflict in a way that we haven't had the opportunity to do in the past.
It's a completely different creative challenge. Instead of creating stuff and researching, trying to find out what could happen and what might happen, and as Mike said, kind of a lot of our imagination. This one is it's about, we know what the gun looks like, we better make it look right, and they better hold it right, because there are thousands of pictures of the person holding the gun, running the gun, all that stuff. So the challenge was getting it right from what we've seen and what we could get. And it was a nice creative challenge. It's been, for us, this 3-game run so far of Modern Warfare, Advanced, and now World War II, for us creatively, it's been a nice big creative circle.
There's also been a big gap between people having experienced World War II. At the same time, technology has evolved. How has that impacted what you guys can now do to bring World War II to life?
Yeah, these latest consoles are amazing. We have more horsepower than we've ever had. And you're right, it's been 20 years since Saving Private Ryan. It's been 10 since Call of Duty has been in World War II. So there is a generation of people who we think this may be their first experience in a World War II setting, in an interactive setting where the player agency allows them to make real choices. And having the horsepower behind these new console systems to really bring those worlds to life and immerse players in new ways, it's really an incredible opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, just the amount of detail. For example, you saw where we threw a smoke bomb, and the AI, the guys are immediately coming out and they're coughing and they're trying to get. I mean, these are animations and things and details that we couldn't get in the past, or maybe you'd have one or two of those details and you'd see it over and over again. But that's throughout the game. There's just brand new AI system, brand new, as we said, destruction system, and everything else in the game. This game could not have been brought to life the way we have in the past.